Revenge story with Anjo.
London never slept, and neither did Sienna Clarke's ambition. At 28, she was the youngest project manager at Ashworth & Cole, a sleek consulting firm in Canary Wharf. Her days were long and her nights shorter, but she loved the challenge. Everyone admired her work ethic, except Adrian Wolfe, her department head. "Don't outshine me in the meeting again," he once whispered after a presentation. Sienna thought he was joking. He wasn't. If you've ever had a boss who felt threatened by you, you'll understand what's coming. Sienna's days began with strong tea, a power suit, and the determination to prove herself. Her team respected her, until the whispers started. Missing budget files. Incomplete reports. Adrian's icy stares. One Friday, he called her into his glass office. "We've had a breach in project data," he said smoothly. "Your login was used." Sienna blinked, confused. "That's impossible, Adrian. I've been in meetings all morning." He folded his arms. "Then perhaps you should be more careful with your passwords." Her stomach dropped. She left the office shaking. Someone had set her up. But who? Over the weekend, she worked through every file, checking for errors. Nothing. Monday morning came, and so did HR. "Miss Clarke, could you come with us, please?" They led her to a room that smelled like coffee and accusation. Adrian sat there, arms folded, pretending concern. "We're investigating a data breach tied to your account," said Helen from HR. "Until this is resolved, you're suspended." Sienna's voice cracked. "Suspended? I've done nothing wrong." Helen's expression softened, but rules were rules. Outside, rain poured as Sienna packed her things. Colleagues avoided eye contact. London's skyline blurred through the glass as she left with a cardboard box and a broken heart. On the street, her phone buzzed. A message from Adrian. "Take this time to reflect on your actions." Her hands trembled. Reflect on what? Trusting him? She had no idea that this was just the beginning of a storm that would destroy her career, her friendships, and nearly her sanity. Days turned into weeks. HR remained silent. Recruiters ghosted her after checking references. It was as if Adrian had poisoned the water. One evening, while scrolling through LinkedIn, she noticed something strange. Adrian had been promoted. Interim head of operations, the post read. Her position. "He used me," she whispered. That night, she cried until exhaustion took her. But when dawn broke, anger replaced despair. If you've ever been falsely accused, you know the moment grief turns into fire. Sienna began to dig. She still had contacts in IT, people who believed her. One of them, Elias Turner, reached out quietly. "Meet me at Costa by the station after work," he messaged. "I found something." When she arrived, he slid a memory stick across the table. "I shouldn't even have this," he whispered. "But the system logs show Adrian used your login remotely from his laptop." Sienna's breath caught. "You're sure?" He nodded. "He created fake credentials under your name." Her hands tightened around the cup. "Then I can prove it." Elias warned her to be careful. "He's powerful. He'll come after you, if he finds out." Sienna smiled grimly. "Then let him try." She spent nights compiling emails, timestamps, screenshots, building her case. Each click was an act of defiance. Between long sessions, Elias would message, checking if she'd eaten or slept. Their chats slowly shifted from professional to personal. He had a gentle humor that made her smile again. For the first time in weeks, she felt less alone. 2 months later, Adrian's lies began to crumble. A journalist from The Guardian contacted Sienna after an anonymous tip hinted at internal fraud at Ashworth & Cole. "I can't go on record yet," Sienna said carefully. "But I know who's behind it." The reporter paused. "If you can prove it, we'll publish." Sienna's pulse raced. This was her chance. She just needed undeniable evidence and a way to expose him without risking Elias's job. Sienna and Elias met secretly at a riverside cafe in South Bank. "There's one more thing," he said, sliding her another flash drive. "It's risky, but it's everything. Adrian's been transferring client funds into offshore accounts." Sienna stared at the data. This could ruin him. Elias nodded. "Or you, if you're not careful." She smiled faintly. Then we'll do it smartly. If you've ever had someone underestimate you, you know how satisfying planning your comeback feels. They drafted an anonymous email with the evidence attached and sent it to the Guardian's investigations desk. The waiting nearly killed her. Days passed. Silence. Then one morning, her phone exploded with notifications. Breaking, Ashworth and Cole under investigation for fraud. Adrian's name trended on Twitter. The article detailed his schemes, his misuse of employee accounts, including Sienna's. She sat frozen, reading the line. Sources confirm the employee previously blamed for the breach has been cleared. Justice. But the story wasn't over yet. By noon, her inbox overflowed. HR wanted a meeting. Former colleagues sent apologies. Even Helen from HR left a voicemail. We'd like to formally apologize, Sienna. The board wishes to reinstate you immediately. Sienna stared at the message, emotionless. She wasn't sure she wanted her old job back. She wanted something else, the truth to come out publicly. Adrian hadn't just betrayed her. He'd humiliated her. Now it was her turn to set the record straight. That evening, Elias visited her flat. You did it, he said softly. We did it, she corrected. They celebrated with takeout and laughter that felt almost foreign. Yet beneath the joy, Sienna felt a pull, a hunger for complete closure. He'll deny everything, she murmured. Even now. Elias hesitated. Then record him. She raised an eyebrow. You think he'd actually confess? People like him always do. They love the sound of their own voice. The next morning, she dressed sharply, the way she used to before everything fell apart, and went to the office unannounced. Gasps followed her as she walked past desks. Adrian emerged from his office, pale and sweating. Sienna, he said, forcing a smile. I was just about to call you. Sure you were, she replied. Got a minute? He let her inside, closing the glass door. I wanted to apologize for the misunderstanding. She cut him off. Misunderstanding? You used my login to hide your thefts. Adrian's smile stiffened. I think you're confused. Sienna leaned closer. Am I? Because I have your IP logs, your transfers, and your voice from the last call you made to HR. His eyes flickered. You recorded me? No. You recorded yourself. The office system saves everything. She slid a phone onto the table, its light blinking red. Say it, Adrian. Tell me what you did. His jaw clenched. You don't know who you're dealing with. Actually, she said calmly. I do. She walked out, leaving him fuming. That afternoon, she uploaded the audio and documents anonymously to the journalist. Within hours, The Guardian released Part 2. Internal audio confirms Wolf's involvement in data fraud. The story exploded across UK media. Ashworth and Cole's reputation shattered overnight. The board suspended Adrian indefinitely pending investigation. For Sienna, vindication came not in cheers but silence, the kind of peace that follows a storm. If you've ever been falsely accused, comment below, because you know how this moment feels. In the following weeks, job offers poured in. Competitors who once ignored her now wanted her brilliance. Yet Sienna hesitated. She needed time to breathe, to rediscover herself beyond revenge. She joined a consultancy startup where Elias worked remotely. We could build something honest together, he suggested. She smiled. Honesty sounds revolutionary. Their partnership grew, both professionally and emotionally. For the first time, Sienna saw a future not shaped by fear, but by choice. But Adrian wasn't done. A month later, she received an anonymous message. You think you've won? Watch your back. Elias advised going to the police. He's desperate, he said. He's lost everything. Sienna wasn't afraid anymore. Let him watch, she said coldly. I've got nothing left to hide. That night, news broke. Adrian Wolf was arrested at Heathrow trying to flee to Dubai. Police found evidence matching the leaked files. Sometimes karma doesn't knock. It storms the door. Sienna testified in court months later. Adrian avoided her gaze as the judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 7 years. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Reporters swarmed her outside the courtroom, flashing cameras. Miss Clarke, how does it feel to clear your name? She smiled faintly. It feels right. Her voice didn't tremble this time. She walked into the cold London air, feeling the weight of justice lift from her shoulders. In the weeks that followed, Sienna's story became a symbol for corporate resilience. Podcasts, interviews, speaking invitations, all flooded in. Yet she remained humble. During one interview, the host asked, "What kept you going when everyone doubted you?" She smiled. Truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs time. That line went viral, printed on mugs and posters across LinkedIn. She laughed when Elias showed her one. "Guess you're famous now," he teased. A year later, Sienna and Elias launched their own consultancy, Clarke and Turner Solutions, specializing in ethical project management. They hired small teams, paid fair wages, and built a reputation on transparency. "We'll never be Ashworth and Cole," Elias said one evening, watching London lights shimmer from their office window. "Good," Sienna replied softly. "We'll be better." And if you've ever built something from ashes, you know that success tastes different when you've earned every piece of it. 6 months later, Sienna stood on stage at a Women in Business conference in Manchester, looking out at hundreds of faces. "There was a time I thought my life was over," she said, voice steady. "But sometimes losing everything shows you what was never real, to begin with." The audience erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Afterwards, people queued to meet her, calling her brave. But bravery, Sienna thought, wasn't about fearlessness. It was about standing tall while your world burned around you. "If you've ever had to rebuild your life from nothing," she said into the mic, "this story is for you." After the conference, Elias found her backstage. "You are incredible," he said, handing her a bottle of water. "I just told the truth," she replied with a soft smile. "Truth has power." He looked at her with quiet admiration. "You've changed, Sienna." She raised an eyebrow. "For better or worse?" He chuckled. "Definitely better." There was a warmth between them, unspoken but unmistakable. She didn't rush it. Healing had taught her patience. Sometimes love doesn't need fireworks. Sometimes it's found in steady hands and understanding hearts. Later that month, Sienna received a letter from Adrian's solicitor. Her testimony had helped secure compensation from Ashworth and Cole, a public apology, and a settlement. It wasn't about money anymore, but closure. She donated part of it to a legal fund supporting whistleblowers. "People like me shouldn't have to lose everything to tell the truth," she told Elias. "We'll make sure they don't." Together, they created a small foundation under their company's name. It was her quiet form of revenge, turning pain into purpose. Her parents, who had once doubted her decision to take on Adrian, invited her home for Sunday dinner. "We didn't realize how bad it was," her mother admitted, stirring tea nervously. Sienna nodded. "It's fine, Mum. I just needed to do it my way." Her father leaned back. "You've made us proud, love." Those words, so simple, made her eyes sting. For years she had sought approval from people who undervalued her. Now, she no longer needed it, but hearing it still healed something small inside her. By spring, Clarke and Turner Solutions had doubled its clients. Their office was still modest, exposed brick walls, plants on desks, laughter echoing down the hall. Sienna had hired some of her former colleagues who'd once stayed silent when she was fired. "I want to build a company where no one's voice is dismissed," she told them during their first team meeting. "Where doing the right thing isn't optional." They clapped, and she felt Michael's, her late mentor's, old words echo. "You change systems by refusing to play their games." One Friday evening, Elias found her still at her desk, typing under the soft hum of office lights. "You need a break," he said gently. "Dinner's on me." She looked up, smiling. "You're terrible at taking no for an answer." "That's because you never actually say no," he teased. They walked out into the cool London night, stopping by a small Lebanese restaurant. Over hummus and laughter, Sienna realized something. She wasn't just rebuilding her career. She was rebuilding herself. If you've ever lost everything and found peace again, you'll understand that moment. Elias dropped her home after dinner. At the door, he hesitated. "I've wanted to say this for a while," he murmured. You're more than just the bravest person I know. You're someone I care about deeply. Sienna felt warmth bloom in her chest. Elias, she began softly. He smiled. No pressure. Just the truth. She nodded. Then here's mine. You're the first person I've learned to trust again. Their eyes met in quiet understanding. It wasn't fireworks, it was light after a long storm. A few weeks later, Sienna appeared on a BBC One documentary titled Women Who Fought Back. The episode chronicled her story, from betrayal to justice. The cameras followed her walking through Canary Wharf, standing outside Ashworth and Cole. That building used to represent failure, she said to the interviewer. Now it reminds me of survival. The segment trended across social media. Messages flooded her inbox from women across the UK. You gave me courage to report my boss. You made me believe in myself again. Not everyone celebrated her rise. Adrian's supporters tried to discredit her online. One comment read, "She only got famous because she cried about being fired." Sienna smiled when she saw it. Once upon a time, that would have crushed her. Now, it didn't even sting. People will always talk, she told Elias. Let them. I've got work to do. Her calm confidence was her greatest victory. She had learned that silence wasn't weakness, it was control. 1 year to the day since her reinstatement, Sienna hosted her first charity gala, Voices of Integrity. Business leaders, journalists, and activists attended. Dressed in an elegant navy gown, she gave a speech that made headlines the next morning. Revenge isn't about hurting those who hurt you, she said into the mic. It's about reclaiming your power and showing the world you were never what they said you were. The crowd rose to their feet. Cameras flashed. Elias, standing at the back, smiled with pride. After the gala, they took a quiet walk along the Thames. The city shimmered under moonlight. You realize what you did tonight, right? Elias said softly. You closed the circle. She looked up at the skyline. Maybe. But closure isn't the end. It's the start of something better. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Then here's to new beginnings, he whispered. To truth, she replied. Their fingers intertwined as London's night wind carried the sound of distant applause. Months later, Adrian appealed his sentence. It was denied. The judge's words echoed across news outlets. Let this be a lesson to those who exploit trust. Sienna watched the clip quietly in her office. Justice doesn't erase the scars, she murmured, but it reminds you they healed. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. He'll never get near your life again. She smiled faintly. He doesn't live there anymore. The woman she once was, frightened, silenced, no longer existed. 2 years later, Clarke and Turner opened a second branch in Birmingham. Their foundation funded whistleblower protections across the UK. Sienna often spoke at universities, teaching young professionals to recognize workplace manipulation. If your success threatens someone, she told students, it means you're already ahead. After one lecture, a young woman hugged her, whispering, You saved my career. Sienna blinked back tears. She hadn't just won revenge, she'd built legacy. That night, back home, Sienna sat by her window with tea, watching the rain trace lines across the glass. Elias joined her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Do you ever miss the old days? He asked. She shook her head. The old days made me who I am. But no, I don't miss them. He smiled. Good. Because the future looks beautiful. She leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time in years, her heart felt light. She was no longer surviving, she was living. As the story closed, Sienna recorded a short video for her followers. If you're watching this, she said, voice soft yet strong, and someone has tried to break you, remember this. You don't owe them silence. You owe yourself peace. The comments flooded in within minutes. This gave me chills. You inspired me to quit my toxic job. Sienna smiled. Tell me in the comments, she said, what justice means to you. And with that, the woman they tried to destroy became the voice that couldn't be silenced.